Hey guys, how's it going? KRIPP'S here. Today I bring you guys another Diablo 4 build guide. That's right, Diablo 4 is having its 10th season this week on Tuesday, and I want to get you guys kick-started with some necromancer builds. Now, before I get into the build guide, link of which of course will be below, it will be on Mobalytics. I am updating my guide season to season and often creating new builds as well. It is going to be necromancers. Necromancer's been fun. Minions is actually really fun to play in Diablo 4, just like chill and blast with minions. There's lots of ways that you can do it. This season, in Season 10, we are getting not a lot of seasonal mechanics. The amount of customizable seasonal powers is actually really low compared to many of the previous seasons, but we're getting a new mechanic called Chaos Armor, where it's not every unique, but a lot of uniques, even class-specific ones, can be dropped as a different armor piece. So for example, if you really like a particular, let's say you really like Fists of Fate, but it's conflicting with another unique glove that you'd also want to use, now you can use both of them. You can find Fists of Fate on boots. And in some cases, this is ridiculous because most of the time boots don't have damage, for example. So you can get damage on a boot slot. A lot more customizability. And the reason why I think Necromancer will be a fantastic class to try in the upcoming season is because Necromancer has 10 or 12 builds that are all pretty good, and the chance that this new Chaos Armor system is bug-free, it's zero. You know, probably there's going to be some really crazy bugs and broken mechanics in one of the builds, and Necromancer is actually one of the most build voluminous class of them available right now. So, how will I start playing the game? Well, it's probably just going to be with a bunch of minions. That's right. Minion Necromancer is one of the best builds to play, as it was in Season 9 and Season 8 and Season 7. But since Season 9, we have this new unique called the Hand of Naz. And if you sacrifice both warriors and golems, you get an extra skeleton mage summon available for each minion that you sacrifice, and it makes your skeleton mages into skeletal archmages, and these are very strong, much stronger in fact than their normal counterpart. You're also able to use this completely insane aspect, service and sacrifice, which literally doubles your damage baseline. This is before the doubling on the two-hander, by the way. And it makes your skeleton warriors pretty useless. But you don't use the warriors because you sacrifice them. So it's just that alone puts the build into the stratosphere. Now, another thing about Chaos Armor is that when you get a Chaos Armor of a different slot, it is slightly stronger than the original version. With the Hand of Naz providing such a massive damage boost, the idea is that you eventually find Hand of Naz boots, and you find Mendel on gloves, which you can. It's part of the list. And then you mix up the aspects. So you put occult on your amulet. This is outlined in the guide. Again, it's on Mobalytics. If you want the written form, it is there. So basically, you're going to want to play generic minion build, play all the minions, and then if you get a Hand of Naz, or if you get really lucky and get a Chaos Armor Hand of Naz early, you can start playing this build. The Hand of Naz build is getting a few bug fixes that, in a way, end up being nerfs, but we do get some pretty large amount of seasonal power from this new Chaos Perks system. So this one here called a Beast Cornered, you will see this a lot, and I mean a lot. This is going to be in pretty much every single build because it is the prime perk. There's only 4 or 5 of these or something. There's not that many. And for every 10% life you're missing, you gain 20% increased damage. This is a multiplier. This is X damage and 5% damage reduction. So if you are, for example, at half health, you will do triple damage, right? Well, no, that's if you're missing all your health. If you're at half health, you'll do double damage. So 5 times 20. You'll do double damage at half health, and you'll have a damage reduction of 25%, which is 33% more EHP, which is pretty good. But, how will you be at half health? You can spend resource, which this build doesn't really do, or you could get this one. You can no longer be healed above 50% life. Easy. So you just spend a couple spells, you just blight, just get your life to basically 50%, and then you can't get it above 50%. Is that good? Well, you do lose a little bit of survivability, but I'll explain how that evens out in a second. But the Mard Guard also gives you 10% max all resists, which is insane. 20% armor multiplier, which means you just use all diamonds and you basically free armor and resist cap now on necromancer. Crazy. And 100% increased barrier and fortify generation. So barrier generation allows you to go over the cap, and we do have a passive where we can get barrier for 15% of our HP. Now that barrier, it just triggers off lucky hits, and with this build, it's just constantly being refreshed. So instead of 15%, we're going to get 30% now, instead of 15, because of the barrier generation. Yes, we are stuck at half-life, but at half-life, we have the 25% damage reduction. So if we're constantly refreshing 30% barrier instead of 15, and we have that 25% damage reduction, it's pretty much the same. It's maybe a slight bit weaker to one-shots that are physical-based, because again, we have 10 max all-res. So against elemental damage, it's actually stronger. But against Fizz, it's slightly weaker to one-shots. But honestly, that's very, very few, and most of the builds, as you guys know, that I make for Diablo and for any ARPG, really, they're very much on the tankier side of things, so this is absolutely nothing to worry about. We also get Crazy Brew, which basically when you use a healing potion and it allows you to use healing potions at full life, you get 80% increased attack speed and movement speed. This is really nice because this is tier 2 attack speed, which is hard to get, and 80% movement speed is really important because remember, the boots are going to become the gloves, which means they're going to lose their movement speed bonuses. This is another reason why I think Necromancer is going to be really good. Necromancer can get a ton of movement speed from stacking darkness skills with Reaper's Pursuit. For each darkness skill on your skill bar, gain 6% increased movement speed and 6% more damage. So you get lots of baseline movement speed. The loss of boots doesn't matter as much as it does for other classes. Everyone's going to do this, by the way, because the boots don't offer damage, and now you can use an uber version of a regular unique in your boots that does give damage. So everyone's going to be running slower in this next season. Except necromancers are probably still able to hit the movement speed cap quite easily, and if you're also getting Crazy Brew regularly, you're actually going to be faster than normal, which is pretty crazy. The other thing that we're getting is the chaotic cooldowns. So casting a skill with a cooldown will randomly set its cooldown between 2 seconds and its base cooldown. So if you had something like, an ultimate that has a cooldown of like 50 seconds, it'll basically be a random number between 2 and 50. But also, you no longer benefit from cooldown reduction. And minion builds generally don't care about cooldown reduction. You get cooldown reduction from the Decrepify procs. So this means you don't even bother getting the ultimate cooldown stuff on your jewelry, which allows you to get more of the affixes that have a chance to restore resource off lucky hit procs, which gives you a higher rate of uptime on the Cax rune, which doubles your damage every second if you have enough lucky hits and enough resource being depleted and gained from that mechanic. Overall, this is going to be a fantastic starter build. I cannot imagine you will encounter any issues because it is effectively a build that is tried and true. This was one of the very strongest builds in the game in Season 9, and mechanically, by the numbers, it's very, very similar in terms of output. So if you want a build that's going to kill all the uber bosses pretty easily, you're going to get to like pit 100, so you can actually level up your own glyphs all the way by yourself. This is the build to do, and Necromancer seems to be a great class choice because, well, there's just so many viable builds. This is one of many, and you can just pick. If something comes out to be unintended, super OP, bugged with all the, chaos armor stuff, you're already playing it, so you're already there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.